We are going back into the vault, ladies and gentlemen. It is TLC 2011, The Retro Review, a show where Daniel Bryan became the World Heavyweight Champion, cashing in Money in the Bank. As well as that, on this show, we saw the likes of Zack Ryder winning the United States Championship from Dolph Ziggler. And of course, CM Punk retaining the WWE Championship in a triple threat ladder match. Well, a TLC match, that is. And of course, as well, this famous photo came from this show as well, of course. And this one also, all the champions, which was, of course, leaked, never supposed to come out to the public eyes. But of course, it came to our eyes and it's now come to your eyes on this stream. Welcome, everybody. My name is Steve. I'm joined by the one and only NX Steve in the house. We are going to be talking TLC 2011, the Retro Review. NX Steve, our viewers have voted for this show. What were your thoughts when you first were given this one to review here this week?
Yeah, I remember the main event. I think that was pretty much the only thing I did remember from it, really. But I almost ended up watching the wrong pay-per-view. I ended up watching Money in the Bank from 2011 by accident. For some reason, I just had Money in the Bank in my head for some reason. But no, I've watched it. It's all good. We're all good to go.
Too many ladders, that's what I'll say there for us, but absolutely it is good. And obviously a pay-per-view we don't get in December anymore. In fact, WWE doesn't do any pay-per-views on the calendar at this point in the month of December. We are recording in 2023. For those watching way in the future, what are your thoughts? Do you miss TLC as a premium live event?
Not really. Well, using this pay-per-view as an example, no, because it's not handled very well. In the future, though, with Triple H booking it, I reckon it could make a return. They could probably do it properly.
Well, it'll be interesting to get your thoughts as we go through the show, but welcome to one that is watching live. Of course, you are watching on delay. Thank you for watching as well. Make sure to hit the like button, share with a friend, and subscribe as well, and share your memories from TLC 2011. We are going to go chronological order through the show, but before we do start, we're not going to waste any time getting straight into the little bit of details that come with this show as well. Of course, being in 2011, the date of this show was on December the 18th, my birthday, for anyone that was keeping score at home. The location of the show is in the First Marina Arena from Baltimore, Maryland. The attendance of the show was 9,000. The buy rate, this was still in the buy rate era before the WWE Network and Peacock. The buy rate was 179,000. And we can give you a pay-per-view track as well. And I've got to say, one of my favorite songs for in a little while we're watching these shows, Kasabian's Days Are Forgotten. What a banger of a track. I enjoyed listening to this one.
I didn't. I'm the only Kasabian song I probably ever actually liked is Clubfoot, and I've probably never liked another song since, if I'm honest.
I like Clubfoot as well. Well, maybe to some, maybe not to others. And for those, check it on the Apple Music and Spotify. We're not sponsored by them, but feel free to do so. Or YouTube it. We are here on YouTube, but do it after you've checked out the stream. But we did mention as well about the video package. It's kind of a Christmas fairy tale. Everything's rhyming, promoting all the top matches on the show. We see snow effects over the WWE universe. Not really much substance in a video package, so not much more to share. But what was your thoughts of this video package?
I mean, for the timing of this, with it being literally a week before Christmas, you would have thought they would have gone with a more, I don't know, December to Dismember or something. Do you know what I mean? Something just a bit more Christmassy theme related. Like we were saying just before we started, that TLC and Christmas kind of like this is a really a hodgepodge of themes throughout the show, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I actually kind of like the opening intro package. I thought it was unique. It was different. It actually made it feel separate from probably every other show that year.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with that Christmas theme. Like you say, it's just around the corner when it hits the 18th of December. And, well, one thing people may not see as a present, let's be honest, in 2011 is the commentary team of Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler. What were your thoughts of heel Michael Cole booing every idea, every babyface, every indie darling, if you will? And, of course, Jerry Lawler, well, you know, being the babyface commentator, but, of course, Jerry will go and do what Jerry will do.
Yeah, it's there's times throughout the show where you're just like, oh, I don't miss Jerry that much, if I'm honest with you. Like he's really insufferable when it comes to certain parts. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't actually notice the dynamic switch until maybe the Big Show Mark Henry match, where like Daniel Bryan comes into it, and I'm like, oh my god, I've just realized they're actually doing reverse role commentary, because otherwise I hadn't noticed.
Really? Wow. Okay. Especially even like with the idea of like Ryder, how can this guy get over? And he doesn't deserve to be in this spot. I don't know. It just for me, Michael Cole at this point is a bit insufferable for
I
me.
might have tuned it out if I'm honest with you. Like, yeah, I know this is obviously like, isn't he? This is obviously around the time when they're doing like the anonymous GM on Raw, aren't they? And he's doing the whole and I quote stuff, and it's like he's becomes really insufferable because he feels like it's kind of like how John Laurinaitis was at one point as well, where he was on the show every week, and there was too much of him.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it doesn't help the situation. Let's be fair when it comes to it, but like you say, some dark memories there.
Isn't this the
Oh,
same year that Cole has his Mania match as well?
it really is, yeah. WrestleMania
That's what
27
I mean. Yeah,
against
it's
Jerry Lawler.
2011 is the year of Michael Cole.
Absolutely. And Pierre in the house, by the way, as well, saying hello to us both. Hope you're doing well, Pierre says. Heel Michael Cole, he got booing every single time he was talking in that time because people didn't want to see heel Michael Cole. He was so annoying, man. He was very annoying at that point. And of course, if you're going to give him a match at WrestleMania, of course, against Jerry Lawler, don't have it be about 27 minutes long. That was one of the most insufferable parts of that WrestleMania, which is why we've not put it as a retro review for WrestleMania 27.
Oh dear, that'd be up there with Fabulous Moolah versus Jacqueline for me, I think.
Well, at least that was only a couple of minutes. Temple Plays in the house says, how are both Steves? How are you both? We are doing well. Hope you're doing well, Temple. Hope you're keeping well in this festive time, of course, with tables, ladders, and chairs being the theme of the day. Of course, if you want to keep any comments in the comment section, please keep them themed to the show. Without further ado, let's not waste any time, and we are going to get in then with the first match. But before we do, there was a dark match on the show. We can't see it because it's just seen as a dark match, not even a pre-show match. Drew McIntyre defeated Alex Riley. Just in case anyone was keeping score at home, Drew was around during that time period.
It's only 3 MB, Drew, so it's not that important.
There we are. Dolph Ziggler, though, kicks off the show, though, with Vicky Guerrero. I should say Vicky Guerrero kicks off the show, introducing Dolph Ziggler. Did you miss the tones of excuse me?
No, definitely not. I said to you before, even my wife was watching this. I had this on, and my wife was sitting there. As soon as she heard Vicky going, excuse me, she was like, oh, no, dear, she had to leave the room because Vicky's that insufferable.
Really? Oh, God. Well, there you are. It's tempting at that point because she plays her role so well. Let's be fair. She's annoying, and that's what it is. But it does have that go away heat as well. I totally can understand that. But of course, Ziggler being introduced as the United States Champion, going against, well, the hero of the time, Zack Ryder, the guy that, well, couldn't get his spot in WWE. So at that point in 2011, he took to a little station known as YouTube, created a 64-man fictional tournament for the Internet Championship, made himself the winner of said championship, got himself massively over with the crowds to the point that the previous month at Survivor Series in Madison Square Garden, of all places, the place was screaming, "We want Ryder." That was literally what was the call at that point. It was one of the most over people in the company at that point. You could see that when he was actually coming down for the first match of this show. Almost made it an appropriate opener when you think about it, because Zack was so over with the crowd here in Maryland.
Yeah, it's a shame they never did anything more with that Internet Championship, because I really felt they could have really used that to heighten the character of Zack Ryder. It's a shame that they never did, but as much as I don't really want to shit on Zack Ryder, excuse my French, but for me, he is in. When I saw him come out, I was like, my God, it just feels like I'm watching like a cross abbreviation of Zack Ryder, Riddick Moss, and Mojo Rawley. Like, they're just the same character, and it's like it's not my favorite character, if I'm honest, and it's kind of like they all just blend into one for me.
Yeah, it's not my favorite type. But when I look back at this now, when I look at Zack Ryder, obviously he was really over at that time period. But you can kind of see maybe WWE could have gone with it, and we could have seen where it could have led to, because obviously they do give up on Ryder very, very quickly after this show. But at the same time, I do feel to myself that I look at him now as Matt Cardona. You see what he's gone on to do since then. it would be much different to see him in WWE now under the Cardona gimmick, whether it was a one-off Rumble appearance or whether it was a proper run. I think he could have a lot of fun with it. But to go through some of the details of the match for those that are unaware and want a review, because that's what we're here for. Obviously, we mentioned Michael Cole in his heel phase, putting down Ryder every given opportunity. But Ryder does hit a dive over the top rope to the floor onto Ziggler. But Ziggler does take advantage of the match, hits multiple elbow drops, rest holds, and even an Olympic slam. Ryder gets back into the match though with a drop kick from the second rope, and shortly after lands the broski boot in the corner. There's a 2 count from this one, a near fall as Vicky puts Dolph's foot on the bottom rope. Vicky is caught though doing this by the referee, so he's ejected from ringside. Gets a big roar from the crowd. Pace really quickens for the final third, and I will make a good note of that because I think from here I actually quite enjoyed the match. Dolph hits a famouser for the 2 counts. Ryder hits a hurricanrana from the top rope, also for a 2 count, but Ryder does hit the Rough Rider, but Ziggler counters, uses a roll-up holding the tights for another near fall. Ziggler runs into Ryder's knees in the corner, and we do get a Rough Rider and a brand new United States Champion. And as we saw at the picture at the top of the stream, he celebrates with his dad in the front row at ringside there. The crowd celebrates like crazy. And Michael Cole looks like he received Cole at Christmas with that grumpy face at ringside. What were your thoughts then with Dolph Ziggler versus Zack Ryder?
For me, aside from the main event, this is probably match of the night for me. Like it's funny because you can split this in two because it's kind of like it wasn't anything exciting up until the point, and then Vicky gets kicked out, and then this really just steps up a pace, and it really starts to deliver. And like you forget how good Dolph Ziggler is at selling, man. Like that final Rough Rider he takes, the perfection that he gets himself into to take it is just unbelievable. Like I really enjoyed it, and like I said, it was just a shame that we had the first half of it wasn't as high paced or as exciting. Because I mean, at one point, this is the first match of the night. We've got like a 2-minute rest hold, and I'm like, it's opening match of the night. We shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff.
No, absolutely not. And it felt like, like you say, it's a very slow pace at the beginning of the show. It almost felt very safe to start things off, maybe. I don't know. It's a big opportunity. It's a big breakout moment for Zack Ryder on this show on this night. Almost feels like they wanted to make sure that it went perfectly, if you will. But like you say, once it does get to that final third, the pace goes up 2 or 3 steps. And when it does step up, man, do you go along with it? And maybe that's the adrenaline rush that you need, that you want from this, and you actually come out with that even more satisfying conclusion when Zack Ryder actually goes to win the United States Championship.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it just like I said, we said, but just before, like you can see the crowd is massively behind him, and obviously they have to pan to his dad in the crowd because his his dad being his #1 fan and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just one of them almost. It's like a generically well built baby face, but it's like you said again, it's a shame that they don't really do much with him after. Like he gets a couple of runs as he gets a run as the US champion, he gets a 1 night or 1 week run as the Intercontinental champion, and he doesn't do a lot else in WWE from this point.
No, I think even to the point that he has the romance angle, I believe it's with Eve Torres, and then he has the team with John Cena. She leaves him for John Cena, so Cena, you can't see him. Well, you should keep an eye on him if you can. And obviously, at that point, then he gets destroyed by Kane each and every week. Remember, he was in the wheelchair, and then Kane still threw him off the stage every week. So it didn't end up well for Zack Ryder, sadly. But on this night, this is a moment that couldn't be taken away from him.
Yeah, no, and he actually got a decent run with the United States title on, like his IC run. So you can't complain about that.
Absolutely not. Well, this match goes for 10 minutes and 22 seconds, and we like to give the Dave Meltzer ratings, so feel free if you want to give your ratings in the comments below as well. What's your rating for this one? Dave gives this 3.5 stars.
I was going to say 3.25, 3.5 sounds about right. Like I said, it was best match on the card aside from the main event.
For me personally, I was feeling that before it gets to the final third, I'm like, maybe a 2. I was feeling it, but I wasn't feeling it, if you know what I mean. But it really jumps up in that last bit. I'm going to give it a 3 star. I think that's where I think it's at. I think it's a very it's a digestible opener that I think really gives you a satisfying payoff, and it makes you feel that you've got some good things to look forward to in the show. Because sometimes with an opener, you want to go into it and feel like, yes, we got the right result. And when you've been looking for a star to build and to get their moment, and Ryder was this at that time, and he got that moment, that's a satisfying payoff for a lot of people. And a lot of people would go in and go, I'm looking forward now to seeing what WWE gives to me next. And by goodness, if you like your indie darlings, you're going to like what's going to come next in this show. But good stuff all around, I think, with this one. Let's go into the comments because we've got quite a few of them that have come flying in. Also, we got here Zack Ryder was so over with people at that time. Pierre, you are correct. But Pierre also misses Vicky Guerrero. She was an incredible heel. Temple Blaze, a massive fan, it looks to be, of the Alex Riley theme song. That was a good theme song back in the day.
Do you know, I was just a big fan of Alex Riley in general. I was really gutted that he never became anything bigger than the rivalry he had with The Miz.
Yeah, absolutely. But he did make that Money in the Bank show in 2011, which, of course, gave you the opportunity to see that. But Pierre says, Vince McMahon sometime when a wrestler is over with the crowd, Vince does nothing. And would Triple H not do it with LA Knight? Triple H would not do it with LA Knight. And I like the comparison that's been made there because LA Knight's kind of like your guy that's organically got over in 2023. So it's kind of fun to see that comparison. And you kind of feel that with Zack Ryder, we mentioned a minute ago there with the idea of how he kind of got his moment and then very quickly became an afterthought. It feels like LA Knight's been built into this position that actually, yes, he went for the World Heavyweight Championship, didn't succeed, but we all suspect he'll become a United States champion. We all suspect it's going to be at WrestleMania. We all suspect it's against Logan Paul. We don't know at the time of recording, but that's what rumors and, let's be fair, our internet wrestling community is suggesting. It feels like LA Knight is a long-term play and someone that will survive the test of time.
Yeah, I would like to think so. I mean, it's unfortunate that, for instance, CM Punk has come back to WWE, and it's kind of like everything else that's going on in WWE is really just overshadowed by CM Punk at the minute. And I was thinking that as well earlier, and I was like, he's not getting no mic time at the minute. He's not getting nothing. I don't even think he's in the bracket for the US tournament either. So I'm a bit confused as to what he's doing at the minute.
Yeah, he seems to be still focusing all on the bloodline at this particular moment in WWE at this particular time. Obviously, teaming with Randy Orton on tribute to the troops. We got a question from Temple Blaze asking, was Big E with Dolph at this point, or was he still in NXT? He was not with Dolph at this point. That alliance joined together towards the end of December 2012. That's the brain having to dig into the vault for you there.
He's got to ditch Vicky for AJ Lee before Big E joins.
There we go. Absolutely. There's a bit of time still to go on the storytelling there. But, we will move on in the meantime after that open. And, of course, backstage, Cody Rhodes attacks Booker T. That will be the first of twice that happens backstage. Or twice that will happen in the show before they get to their match. But, of course, backstage, the first time it happens here. Booker T is checked up on. We'll do that now with Josh Matthews. And Josh Matthews at that point said there was no update when they said that we can give an update. But Cody Rhodes was smiling backstage, hinting that the match may not be on. Spoiler alert, it does happen later in the night. But we'll move on to match 2 in the meantime, and we'll go for those, not beautiful tag team championships. And Steve, you were not a fan of the tag team titles, were you, at this point?
Oh, no one likes the bronze penny tag team titles. They're disgusting. They're horrible. Whoever thought putting bronze plates on a championship belt was smart? They're just like, I don't think I've ever seen any other title in the world be a bronze colored. They're disgusting, man. Do you remember the old? You remember this because you're from the UK. If you ever went on a school trip to a museum and there was that machine where you could put a penny in it and you put a bit more, you put like a pound or something, and you spin it around and it flattens the penny out into like a big penny, and it would stamp something on it. That's exactly what they look like. A big flat 2 pence piece or 1 pence piece. They're disgusting.
I think he would spit on them if he could. That's not a fan. I'm not a fan of them either, to be honest. But I've got to say, what I was a fan of was Air Boom at this point. I was quite a fan of Air Boom back in the day. Evan Bourne and Kofi Kingston. Obviously, two single stars at that point that wasn't getting the big push. Two of the smaller athletes as well in WWE at that point, but they had a tag team title run. They were the champions. Going against Primo and Epico with Rosa Mendes. Of course, apparently Primo had picked up a singles win. I believe it was over Kofi Kingston. I may not fully remember. It was over Kofi Kingston. And they had two tag team victories as well over Air Boom, and one of them playing out on Superstars as well. So they've got momentum going to this Primo and Epico. But of course, if you were to listen to Jerry Lawler during this match, the only thing that matters was Rosa Mendes.
The Jerry Lawler, what about the production? Because it was just constantly focused on Rosa Mendes, and she's standing outside the ring going, perfecto. It's like, sounds like she's trying to spill some Harry Potter spell kind of stuff coming out of it. It's like, perfecto. And I'm like, oh my God. It was terrible, man. Like, you could tell of the four people, the one not in the match, they were trying to make the biggest star.
Absolutely. Even my Spanish is a bit better than that, I'm not going to lie. But cerveza, por favor. There we go. We'll move on in the meantime. Enough about my Spanish. Let's go on and go into details of the match for you there. But springboard from Bourne off the ropes, and the splash is caught by the colognes at this point. Bourne was actually doing that springboard into the ring from the ring ropes, but they just sort of threw him from the second rope to the floor. Thought it was a fun-looking spot. Bourne hits a jumping Meteora in the middle of the ring to then actually get himself to a hot tag to Kofi Kingston. Kofi cleans house. Evan jumps off the top rope onto Epico on the floor. That is the air. Kofi lands the boom with the trouble in paradise to land that on Primo to get the victory. Short and sweet on the details on this match, because although technically I think was actually a very good tag team match, all four competitors are very, solid workers. There's not really much to talk about this match, like you say, other than the fact that the cameras kept focusing on Rosa Mendes.
Yeah, like I said to you, I think they were trying to make a bigger star out of someone who wasn't even in the match. It's a shame, really, because I was the same as you. I really liked Airborne when back in the day when they were together. I thought they were. I really loved Evan Bourne because he just gave me flashbacks to like Billy Kidman and stuff like that, and I was like, kind of why I was infatuated with like watching him wrestle. But yeah, it's just Primo and Epico. Unfortunately, yeah, they were always the jobber tag team. Like even when they were doing the whole Matador gimmick stand up with the small guy who was dressed as a bull,
El Torito,
thank you. Yeah, just they never seemed to get themselves over, and it was kind of like this is probably the most predictable match on the card, if I'm honest, because it was just filler. It's very TV-esque, this match.
Yeah, this is, politely, this could have been on Superstars. Again, this could have been on Raw in the middle of the show. It's not really pay-per-view worthy, and that's nothing really against the four people involved. And they've obviously built a story, but they've obviously not built that story completely on your main TV show when you're saying, yeah, this happened on Superstars. Well, not everybody watched Superstars back then, and probably even less people will even know what Superstars is now. So that probably goes to tell you a lot here. But the match, for what it is pretty solid, but like we say, just not so much more detail. 7.5 minutes, this one. Dave also gave this a 3.25 star rating. Feeling generous.
I probably would have said like 2.25. I think it's like slightly better than a sort of bang average TV match.
I'm going to agree with you with 2.25. And the reason I'm going to agree with you is that, like you say, better than a TV match. But what stopped everyone going to say to a 2.5? I felt that the finish was rushed.
Yeah, and like I feel like some of the high spots they were generic high spots that you would see Air Boom do in every tag team match. Like there was nothing special about the match that made it stand out from every other tag team match they have.
Absolutely, indeed. There, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Not a good way to segue into this. Obviously, you mentioned El Torito a short time ago. Obviously, his probably most famous opponent was Hornswoggle, of course, in the WLC match back in 2014 on the TLC kickoff. It's a great match.
We have to do a watch along for that one time. That is a great match.
We will do that. We will do that. Maybe next Christmas. You never know. But unfortunately, though, as a segue, it leads us to Teddy Long as dressed as Santa Claus and Hornswoggle dressed as an elf backstage. And all I'm going to say is go and watch it for yourself, because you can't get away with saying some of the stuff they said that segment today. It's WWE's attempt of comedy. I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah, dark humor. Their attempt at dark humor in is what's supposed to be a PG-13 product. It's very yeah.
It's a bit risky. Let's just leave it at that. We want to remain on air. We don't want to be losing the monetization, so we're going to leave it just there. But we will move on in the meantime, though, and so that we can talk about it in a bit more detail. A tables match with Randy Orton and Wade Barrett. Wade Barrett, of course, was part of the Nexus, was then gone part of the Core, and now he's on his own, of course. And apparently he actually won the Survivor Series match, the 4-4, 5-5 over Randy Orton's team the month previous. Had been actually interfering in Randy Orton's matches, so that led to the build of this match. Thank you, Michael Cole, for giving us the details. What were your thoughts, though? Michael Cole giving the details of this with the play-by-play, but not video packages. Do you miss the lack? Because there was only one video package in the whole show.
To be fair, it's at times like this where those moments pay off, where you sit there and go, like, as an avid viewer in 2011, you're going to know the reason why they're having their match, but it's almost like they knew at some point they're going to do a streaming service or a live service where you can go back and watch all their old content. And I thought, do you know what? I appreciate it because, like I said, I didn't know any of the build up to any of the matches going into this. So I respect it and I appreciate it.
I appreciate the fact that Cole mentioned it. I just wish that there was a few more videos to see during the show. Like we say, Triple H Kevin Nash is the main one. We do see a brief in the middle of the show of the main event. We don't even get a proper one for the main event. And we do get to see a slap from Kelly to Beth Phoenix. So those are the only ones that we get proper flashbacks for. But hey, we're going off topic just a little bit, but let's talk about the best, shall we say, of the tables match, because there are a few spots in this match that I could have additionally mentioned, but we'd be here for the full time that this match took place. But Randy uses a table as a bit of a seesaw into Barrett's face early doors, which bust Barrett open. We see that Barrett and Orton then go fighting in the aisleway. We see Barrett turning over tables at every opportunity, being a bit more defensive in this match rather than offensive. He goes with a pump handle to slam though to Orton to try and put Orton through a table, but Orton slides down the back of him, and again, before Orton can land a move, Wade turns over a table. We see Wade, though, later in the match, seeing Randy Orton sort of dangling in the ropes. A boot is done to Randy Orton's face with a table just next to that apron. Orton lands on the apron, not through the table. So that was sort of a closer spot, if you want, through the match. Of course, seconds later, Wade attempts a wasteland on the apron to go through that table. Again, Orton sliding behind, and this time then actually hits his vintage Orton DDT through the ropes. Orton goes for an RKO, but is thrown towards the table in the corner. As Orton turns, he goes into a boss man slam. We see Barrett then place Orton on that table. It's taken from the corner, placed normally. As he then goes to the second rope, he's going to jump off the second rope. And of course, as he goes to jump up, Randy Orton, who's laying on said table, playing possum, and lands an RKO, which then sees Barrett go through the table. What were your thoughts with Randy Orton versus Wade Barrett? I thought that this one had some fun moments.
It did, but the problem is like this is kind of one of the things why I hate singles matches when they're table matches, because they set up so many different spots for a table, but they never use them. And I feel like I get it's supposed to be building the hype and the possibility, but it's like I prefer multi-man table matches, like, for instance, Hardy's versus the Dudleys at Royal Rumble 2000. It's like one of my favorite tag team matches ever because it's a tables match, and like the stipulation that both tag team partners have to go through it. So you're going to see at least 3 guys go through tables. So yeah, I think it just like it's a really painful way to build hype for me. And like I was sitting and remembering earlier that like, at this point in 2011, I can remember that I just vaguely remember that every Randy Orton match was just, how can I hit my RKO in every possible different way? And it was kind of like, I can already see the build come in and the possum, and it was kind of like, yeah, it was fun, but it was kind of like really predictable for me.
Yeah, I mean, once you see the tables there, and especially we know Orton since every opportunity that's continued that way, you can see it's coming. But I think we just kind of thought, as I've not seen Orton from this time period for quite a long time, it kind of felt like, he was doing that there. So I did kind of see the fun side to it, despite the fact, like you say, there is a predictable nature of it. But all in all, I do see where you're coming from, because like I do think there's some fun spots in this match, but sometimes I think it can take away from the guys in the ring. Like, would they have had a better match if tables were not involved? Because obviously, like you say, certain things are thrown as spots, but they just end up being letdowns. They don't end up happening because they can't break that table. It ends the match within 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think of all the matches on the card, this is probably the most unique one, because it was the case of you had to put your opponent through a table to win the match, whereas every other match, whether it was a sledgehammer on above the ring or a TLC match, it was kind of like essentially they're all the same match. They're all hardcore, full, no holds barred. You know what I mean? There's no stipulation as to how the person wins it. They just have to win the match. Whereas with this one, at least you had to put someone through a table.
Yeah. I mean, that's, to be fair, that's kind of true. And it was actually a question I was going to ask you, actually, was like, do you think that table matches would benefit for the fact that you could go for as many tables as you want, but the pinfall should be the deciding factor? Or is it better that someone goes through the table as the deciding factor to lead to a winner of said match?
I mean, it could be interesting to see it. I mean, I'd have to see a tables match where you still have to pin them. Like, it'd be weird that your opponent has to go through a table and then you have to pin them. But I suppose it could also, that could be an interesting build to a finish to a match if you want. But I think that because we've seen them for so many years now, I think you're probably just better off staying with, I'll put them through the table to win.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's what people know at this point, I guess. So maybe that's where it should be left. But just a suggestion for something that we could see in the future, and maybe something we maybe should try out for tables matches, just to maybe see if we can freshen them up a little bit. But this match was 10 minutes and 14 seconds. Dave Meltzer gave this a 3.25 star rating. What would be your rating for Randy Orton versus Wade Barrett in the tables match?
I'm going to say 2 3/4. I mean, good use of the ring, some decent spots, unique finish for like going back and watching it now. I can respect it. Just a little bit too predictable. So I'll say 2 3/4.
I'm going to agree with the rating. We all seem to agree a lot tonight on these ratings, which is quite interesting watching on this show. But like you say, I like just as well the fact there's use of the arena as well. Like there's tables set up everywhere. I like the fact they went up the aisleway as well. They made use of the time and they just keep it in the ring. It wasn't predictable. Maybe a predictable finish, but it didn't feel boring watching it. It just, I think for me, would have benefited to have one or two of them spots had landed. You would have felt more satisfaction in the match. However, the match then would have been a lot shorter.
I think if you'd have had this as a triple threat, there would have been a more interesting dynamic, because there would have been opportunities for people to stop the like people going through tables, and I think it would have been a better dynamic just to play out for the story.
Absolutely, indeed. Where's the third rival when we need them? But we go backstage next then, and we'll try and sum this one up quite quickly as well. Teddy Long, once again, being Santa Claus. And of course, the Bellas are arguing which one of them deserves a present and which one has been a naughty girl, where Teddy replies, both of you have been naughty girls, but you're both going to get a present. He gives them a card to the number if they want to play reindeer games. Again, comedy. Yeah.
Hey, give Teddy his props for shooting his shot, man. But damn, it's just all kinds of wrong.
It's all kinds of wrong, isn't it? But if that's the presents he's given out, I think I'm happy to have nothing this year. But that's just me. That's just me. Anyway, the Bellas left in disgust. They give him a slap for good measure as well. And of course, Jack Swagger then entered the room, was unhappy about something happened with Mark Henry on SmackDown. Probably need to watch SmackDown for those details. Teddy Long suggested he could tell him more by sitting on his knee. Swagger said, look, I'm a big dude. I'm going to break your thigh if I do that. We're not going to have that. Sheamus enters the fray. And, Teddy Long wanted to see Sheamus. Jack Swagger didn't like that. Led to a bit of back and forth. And the match was made for later in the evening. Unnecessary.
Sheamus has aged badly in the last 10 years. Like, when you look at some people and you go, hasn't changed a day. My God, Sheamus is like, you can tell Sheamus has got old, because my God, he looks as fresh as daisies in this promo. But yes, very unnecessary promo. I never understood the point of a manager or a GM making a match on the night of the show for the card. I really don't like it. It's one thing that really ticks me off. It's kind of like there's already 9 matches. I don't need a 10th.
The thing is, I wouldn't mind it if there was like extra
Something on the
stakes
line.
involved. Yeah, something
Yeah.
like, or the fact they've been feuding for like weeks and weeks and weeks. But
Yeah.
to the knowledge that you have on this show, this is just thrown together.
It's just a Raw feud. It's literally a reason a match happens on Raw. That's exactly what it is.
And that's, I think, why it leads to a bit of disappointment. But hey, not as disappointment as the other parts of that segment. But like you say, at least Teddy shot his shot. Something I don't really want to think about. Hey, in the meantime, we'll move on to match 4, and we will talk about the Divas Championship. Beth Phoenix taking on Kelly Kelly. What were your thoughts with this match between these two?
Kelly is one of them people where, like, on the way to the ring, she seems so enthusiastic to be a wrestler, but then by the time she's in the ring and someone like Beth Phoenix is doing like a submission move to her, her screams of pain is like it's almost like she instantly regrets being a wrestler. Like she walks down, happy as Larry. Oh yes, I'm Kelly Kelly. I'm a wrestler. And as soon as she's in the match, no, don't want to be a wrestler no more. I quit. Don't want it. Stop. Not going to do it anymore. I'm not Beth Phoenix's biggest fan. I'm not Kelly Kelly's biggest fan, and I have to listen to Jerry Lawler commentate about it. So it's kind of like this is a no win scenario for me. Like I appreciate Beth Phoenix, but at this point in the women's division, she's like the most dominant force, and she has this Divas title for the longest time, and it's kind of like I think she was really oversaturated with that Divas Championship as well because it just felt like she had it forever, and because of her personas being the Glamazon, all the other female wrestlers, they're all petite compared to Beth. So it's like none of them have a sort of physical credibility to take that title off of her. And yeah, I just like I said, I was very soured on Beth Phoenix through this time period.
I think as well, she was in an era where I wish Beth was like around now, like full time, like she, even say what a few years ago, because like there's so many more people now that she can compete in the ring with, and it's like back then, like you say, it was Kelly. She tries, bless her. She gives it a go. Sometimes it's a very slow pace, but she gives it a go. And Beth is another level, and there's just no one credible enough to step up to Beth, which I think is why she was oversaturated through this time.
There was one of a person on the roster, and it was her best friend who was on her side. So it was kind of like, so how could, do you know what I mean? Natalia's the only other credible wrestler at this point. I think the Bellas are still really like green at this point when it comes to the ring stuff. So they've still got a year or two before they're like up to even at least a decent, capable level of like putting on a good match. So yeah, it's just a shame, man.
It is a shame indeed, yeah. But obviously, to go through some of the details of the match, it starts off with a huge slap from Kelly to Beth to kick things off, just like we saw with the slammies that are taking place with the little clip we got before this. And she quickly slams Beth face to the floor from the ring apron, jumping off. Beth then quickly dominates with a press slam, with Kelly's landing on the top rope. Beth then misses a leg drop from the top rope. Kelly attempts a famouser, which is slowly reversed in what would then be a grand slam attempt, but is then reversed into a roll-up, a 2 count. That'd have been a really cool looking spot if Kelly had not been really slow with the famouser attempt. I think that would have been a very fun, unique way they could have done that. But ultimately, Beth does get the win using an electric chair, which I think for me was actually a really fun finisher to see from Beth for that moment. That was probably my favourite moment of the match.
Yeah, it's something out of the norm from normally doing the glam slam. So I like it against Kelly, so it's not like it could probably take a lot to beat her, unfortunately, like from the whole sort of visual presentation. So yeah, I think there's another match that kind of ends like that later on as well, I think, that we'll talk about. But yeah, it's it's a unique finish, and it was kind of like, but I really felt this could have been one match we really didn't need to have on a pay-per-view, unfortunately.
No, but I agree with that. But obviously, at this time period, it's the only women's match we get. Sadly, it's a different time zone. So I suppose kind of grateful we do still get to. But only 5 minutes and 13 seconds. It's one of the shortest on the show. Dave Meltzer gives a 3/4 star rating. Doesn't even make 1 star for him. What would you give the rating for Beth Phoenix versus Kelly Kelly?
I'm gonna be fair and say 2 because at least they had a match and it had a finish. Like I'm not gonna be like I can't critique it that much. Like yes, I know Kelly's not the greatest in ring competitor, and like the generation there is dominated by Beth Phoenix, but I'm gonna say a 2 just to be generous because at least they put on a match.
I think that there's no bad spots in this match. Like really,
No,
I know there's a couple of slower paced spots, but hey, look, I prefer people to hit their spots than to be reckless and do it all
yeah,
wrong. So I'm going to agree again. I'm going to say a 2-star rating. I think it's as standard as you can get. I think for
yeah.
this one, and I like the finishing move to close off the
But
match.
I think if you look back at women's wrestling at 2011 as well, is that Kelly's pace is kind of like the generic pace of all women wrestlers at that point. Like they're running the ropes is that speed, so it's kind of like even for the time period, it's spot on for what it was. We look at it now and was like we see like the ladies just running backwards and forth at 400 miles an hour, no
Mhm.
problem. But yeah, it's just a different time for it.
It is a different time, and that's how it is. But we move on. In the meantime, we're going to go to see Temple Place, who actually wants us to review Tables, Ladders, and Chairs and Stairs 2014 in the future. Temple will keep that in mind. And asking, do we remember, of course, the famous photo? In fact, we actually did put it on the screen at the very start of the stream. So we do remember it indeed. We actually put both of them on there for your viewing pleasure if you do wish to see them at some point again in the future. But we'll move on in the meantime, and we do have backstage segment once again. Alberto Del Rio picking on Ricardo Rodriguez backstage. Him to go and get some food. Miz meets Alberto Del Rio backstage and says that their alliance is dead. They've been actually teaming up together to wear down CM Punk. Del Rio says that there actually never was no alliance. He said he used the Miz. This leads to both of them sort of bickering backwards and forwards. Andrade says that the Miz couldn't even take Ricardo, and as Ricardo returns with Alberto's food, Miz pushes the food into Ricardo's face, and of course, then Alberto then still is a bit mean to Ricardo once again. I suppose a pointless segment, but not so pointless. I suppose they're trying to establish that these guys will go to try and win the championship. Now it comes to the show, but yeah, it's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, like it sets the tone for Ricardo because I mean, imagine you only pack one suit. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, what guy travels and only packs one shirt. Do you know what I mean? They're like, but obviously, when he has his match, when's the match when he comes out in the busted up Toyota Corolla that's all rusted and stuff?
The Royal Rumble
That's
match the
after.
next month.
Yeah, so yeah, when he comes out in that Toyota Corolla, it's kind of like, okay, I understand why you only have one shirt now. But yeah, no, it did what it done to needed to instigate that beat that it's not going to be a 2-on-1 match and it will be a free for all. But I tell you what, though, there is one thing we forgot to actually talk about, which is shocking because I loved it so much, was the actual vision. Because I think the segment starts off with Del Rio saying that he can't get his car into the arena like he normally does for his entrance, and I realised it's because you've got that fantastic Titantron with all those chairs and tables and ladders hanging from around it. My God, man, I missed them actually putting some effort into the presentation.
To be fair, I didn't mention it, but yeah, it's a beautiful presentation, isn't it? With those tables, ladders, and chairs, which they always used to do back in the days, and something we wouldn't see if they did that today.
No, it's a shame, man, because like I said, the visual presentation is amazing.
He is indeed, absolutely. But obviously, Booker T attempts to come to ringside for the next match with Cody Rhodes. And again, that is the second attack on the show. Booker is then taken backstage once again, so that match doesn't take place. So we then get the luxury of talking about this match. Triple H versus Kevin Nash in a sledgehammer ladder match. I'm going to start with the video package. NXT, well, I'm going to let you talk first, actually. I'm more keen to hear what you've got to say instantly than what actually happens here.
Oh, God, yeah. Kevin Nash never runs. I've realised this. Kevin Nash never puts any movement above sort of a knee-jerk reaction. He never runs in a ring, and Triple H, obviously, is Triple H. He has to get the longest match on the card, and they spend half of it just laying on the floor, man. It's like, oh, was this during his reign of terror by any chance?
Whose reign of terror?
Triple H's, not Kevin Nash. He never had a reign of terror.
Well, if you've watched enough matches, it feels a bit of a reign of terror. Yeah, I would say no, it's not Triple H's reign of terror. Although he is actually meant to be the chief officer at that point, isn't he? Before he's taken away from him by John Laurinaitis, which I believe then leads to people power as we go into 2012. But glorious times. Yeah. We'll go into the video package and we'll just dissect of how we got here. Obviously, they had the friendship for 20 years, but a vengeance, we saw a jackknife powerbomb from Kevin Nash onto Triple H, and Triple H said that he was not worried about his neck. It just broke his heart. We saw, though, that Nash attacked Triple H with a sledgehammer from behind on the top of the Raw stage. Triple H said that he thought Nash was his friend there for his whole life. Nash had said that he thought he had a friend, but instead when he returned, he had a boss. We did see another clip of Nash using the sledgehammer on Triple H, a shot to the neck or head area anyway. This is when Triple H was actually strapped to a stretcher. It was taken out of the ambulance and was pressed against the wall. We see that Triple H had then returned, I believe was after a minimum of like six, maybe 7, even 8 weeks. He'd come back to Raw and said that when it came to Sunday, Nash is simply done. So that's what sort of led us here to this match at this point. Like you say, it's the longest match on the show, over 18 minutes long. And yes, some of the time they are on the floor, but you know what? We're going to skip to what I pronounce to be the eventful bits. We'll say the good bits, the eventful bits, I think is the best way to put it. So, yeah, we'll kick things off then with Kevin Nash then using the ladder into Triple H's neck, sending him over the barricade onto the floor. But my question to you, and Steve, straight off the bat, does Triple H actually sell this long enough? Because within seconds, he's then jumping off the announcer's table onto Nash and then starts landing multiple punches.
I don't know. I'm trying to be a positive. Adrenaline, maybe, is the reason why Triple H was able to just, respond instantly and get back up. I don't know. It's I can't even explain it, man. Like it's just so long. Like, like you sit there and watch some matches and you go, this is so unnecessarily just too long. And it's like, even before this match even gets going, like even when the bell rings, like the bell just rings and you go, oh my God, this match is already too long. I mean, this is like, how old is Kevin Nash at this point? He's got to be what, early 50s at this point? Why is Kevin Nash getting the longest match on the card on a TLC pay-per-view? It doesn't make sense for me.
Yeah, it doesn't add up to me either, to be fair. It's a long one. I'm going to double check here the main event because I want to be confirmed that it's actually not the longest match on the show by 12 seconds. It's the second longest match on the show by 12 seconds. But I agree with
in my eyes, it felt the longest.
It felt double. Well, you mentioned Triple H that Kevin Nash never runs. Slowly paced into the ring post. Like you say, he never runs. It was more of a light jog with a silent J. Triple H targets Nash's knee with a ladder. No surprises there. Triple H then lands a figure 4 on Nash with the leg trapped in the ladder. Nash, though, gets back into the match by throwing Triple H into a ladder, into the turnbuckle, and the momentum takes him to the concrete floor. Nash then slides a ladder into Triple H's face whilst on the floor, which looked a bit clunky. We then see Nash then hit a sidewalk slam onto the ladder, followed by a slingshot onto the ladder, which was into the corner. So Triple H was sort of laying down. This ladder was actually balanced on the first turnbuckle when it took place. Nash set out a table and looks to land a power bomb, and this is where this match in particular for me really takes a turn for the worst. Triple H actually lands a backdrop to Kevin Nash over the table, but would I be fair in saying it looked more a bit like a roly-poly?
Just a tiny bit. It's honestly, like you'd think, well, like Kevin Nash has never exactly been the best, like the greatest in-ring performer, eh? And it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe he's too used to being in WCW where he's always winning. I don't know, man. It's getting someone to take a bump that I don't know of his size, of his stature. I don't know, obviously, depending on the time period, if this is because I know he has a lot of problems with his knees, sort of in his like round this time going forward, because I think he's had double knee replacements since. So I don't know if this plays into the factor, and it's like it's painful to watch, man, in some places.
Yeah, unfortunately, and that's pretty much the case from this point. Nash seems to struggle on every opportunity going forward after this to even just walk, let alone do anything. But power to him, actually, to be fair. We're having a bit of ribs here, but he does finish the match off, which, to be fair, credit to him for doing so, because, it's not the easiest thing to do. And to be fair, I probably wouldn't. So, yeah, Nash gets up slowly after this. And like we say, Triple H actually uses the ladder with on Kevin Nash, then uses a climbs up to the ladder. Sorry, I've lost my notes and I've got back into the place now. Looks to actually go and climb the ladder to try and get the sledgehammer. Kevin Nash actually goes up there to meet him. And of course, this is where Triple H uses the top of that sledgehammer, hits Nash in the face, and Nash actually does go flying off the ladder through a table. So I said credit to Kevin Nash to come back and actually finish the match off. Credit to actually come in and do this spot.
Isn't that the first time either one attempts going for the sledgehammer as well? Because I can't remember if they actually attempt before.
It's the first time.
That's what I'm saying. So I give them props to the fact that we've had obviously probably 12 minutes of a match already, and it's the first time either one of them's tried to go for the sledgehammer. I'll give them that, because until you said it, I was like, oh yeah, this actually is a sledgehammer hanging above the ring. I completely forgot about it.
Yeah, absolutely. But then, of course, Triple H then uses that sledgehammer repeatedly on Nash. He then gets rid of the ladder. No need for that anymore. Decides to land a pedigree, and his fans are screaming for one more pedigree. Triple H says, nope, that's not going to cut it. Nash gets back to his knees, holds up the too sweet sign, and Triple H hits Nash with the sledgehammer across the face for the win. And we see Nash taken out on a stretcher as Triple H then gets the victory, and of course then moves on to 2012, which of course then leads him back to The Undertaker for the end of the era at WrestleMania 28. What were your ultimate thoughts of Triple H versus Kevin Nash? Now, I know we've had a few digs of the length of the match. We've had a couple of jokes of perhaps how details in the match, but what were your final thoughts?
The story in this is the best part.
Yeah,
there's a couple of decent spots, like the figure four through the ladder. I think is amazing. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, why don't people do that more now? But this is a purely story driven beat. It's all about what the sledgehammer symbolized and their friendship and the too sweet and the DX suck it, and the story is amazing throughout this match. The match itself is kind of just like, this is the problem I had with this show, was like every one of these stipulation matches was just essentially a no holds barred match, and it's kind of like it's a bit hard to be excited about a match when we've had a tables match just recently, and then there's another TLC match coming up, and it's kind of like the story was the whole point to make this match stand out from the rest of the card. So again, it's hard to really judge it from a wrestling perspective, but it was okay. I mean, for obviously Nash's age and his ability, it was good. It's just, it's kind of like there's, I don't know, there's probably more time there that I would have. I don't even know. No, not even say that, just like giving time to other matches. It just probably went too long than it should have for me.
Yeah, I think the length of the time of the show, like this match, is the problem. But obviously, when you look at, like you said, the story, I'm a story guy, so I like storylines going into matches. I do feel like, though, this story played, and I was sitting there thinking, this is a story that we had like in 2003, like, obviously, which is mentioned here by Temple above here. This is actually Triple H's reign of terrors during this period between 2002, 2004, the unmasking of Kane, and stuff like that. At that point, obviously, unifying championships, Goldberg as well was involved in that time, and of course there was matches with Kevin Nash as well. So did we need it again in 2011? Perhaps not so much. And of course, as Pierce says, it all started with a feud against CM Punk, but in 2011, Nash got a big pop in the Royal Rumble at that point when he returned, but I don't think the full-on run was what people wanted, especially once we'd moved on to the summer, and I think things just didn't quite work out for that run in WWE. But this was a blow-off match, and I think this is the way that Kevin Nash was taken off for good.
We didn't want Kevin Nash. We wanted Diesel.
Exactly. We wanted Diesel. That's what we wanted. Give me what I want. That's pretty much what it comes down to. But I agree with you with a couple of spots. Go on.
Yeah. I was just saying, we don't want fake Diesel either. We don't want Kane dressed up as Kevin Nash.
No. Painful memories of '96, yeah, I'll let you say the ladder spot with the figure four was awesome. I actually like the table spot as well off the ladder, and like you said, the story arc in itself, I think for me works quite well. But yeah, 18 minutes and 13 seconds, and I'm going to find you Dave Meltzer's rating for it right now. Again, 3/4 star rating. Yes, it does go a bit downhill with the fact that Nash is not the most mobile, but is that a fair rating in your point of view?
Again, for the fact that we got a match out of it, and like I said a minute ago, the story beat is the biggest part of this match. It's not about the quality of the in-ring, it's about the story. And I can respect it for the story. So maybe I'm a bit too generous with this one. I'd say 2 3/4. Like I said, I enjoyed the story more this than I did the actual match.
Yeah, I mean the storyline of it, I can agree with you with that. I'm not going to go as high of a rating as you. I'm going to go for 2.25 for me. Maybe 2.5, actually. Maybe 2.5. I don't. I just when I look at it, like there were some good matches that, like you say, are pleasing to watch. But I am more invested in a story than I'm invested in a high quality match. That's how I've been programmed on my pro wrestling. So
Yeah.
I see your point of view with that. I do see where you're coming with it, and yeah, there are things to not like about this match, but there are some good things from it as well. Particularly the storyline is one of them. But we will move on in the meantime. But before we do that, our comments have been very generous, and someone that's on the mark, especially we mentioned about Too Sweet, is Too Sweet Kyle Winhouse as well. Man, I forgot about this show. It was my first TLC pay-per-view I watched. Of course, he started as a fan around 2011, and also gifted this sweet T-shirt. So yeah, thank you very much, Kyle, for that T-shirt, sporting a bit of the On the Mark Wrestling podcast merch at the moment, which of course is available on the markwrestlingpodcast.com if you fancy some of their merch. Temple Plays coming in says you have to give the analysis of this match, Triple H versus Kevin Nash, very slowly because that's how Nash walks, very slowly. Liking the work there. P.S. is the rules of the sledgehammer ladder match make no sense. It's more like a sledgehammer on a pole match in a ladder. Pierre sums up quite perfectly.
Again, that's why I said it was more about what the sledgehammer symbolized than what it meant as a weapon in itself.
Absolutely, yeah. Totally agree with that there from NXT Steve as well there. Adrenaline in Hunter's Soul. Like that, Temple. And let's move on in the meantime. And we'll go on then to backstage, and we'll be brief with this really because Matt Striker's talking to CM Punk. They're talking about the attack on Raw that we'd seen with the double team of Miz and Alberto Del Rio, with Punk with a ladder. It's the armbar used from Del Rio in the ladder on CM Punk, which is a fun looking spot. And Miz talks about saying that the pipe bomb is engaged. Punk was asked about this and was actually more upset that John Laurinaitis accepted his Slammy award. That led to John Laurinaitis getting involved in this, saying that the Slammy was in the mail. Those two bickered, but Punk said he was still going to remain champion and John Laurinaitis would still have to deal with him on Monday night. So yeah, pretty much filler if we're being brutally honest. But speaking of filler, let's talk about Sheamus versus Jack Swagger. With Vicky Guerrero. We get Vicky twice in one show. Your wife must have been so happy about that.
Oh, she left the room at that point.
Well, Swagger targets Sheamus's knee. Goes for a Swagger bomb, landing an elbow on the knee. He then goes for the ankle lock. Sheamus, though, rolls through, sending Swagger into the corner. Swagger goes for another chop block, but misses, and then actually goes into a bro kick for the win. Sheamus, very quick, decisive on this one. This match wasn't very long. One of the shortest on the show. This was 5 minutes and 55 seconds, I should say, for this match there. And to be honest, it didn't need to be on this show. The only thing that I can actually remember watching this, which I thought back then, was Sheamus at that point was my prediction to win the Royal Rumble.
Does he actually go and win the Rumble? I could never remember years and dates. That's my problem.
He did.
He does, yeah, because he goes and doesn't he challenge? Doesn't he beat Daniel Bryan at Mania in about 4 seconds?
Yes, I believe 18 seconds, but yeah, feels like 4 because he kisses AJ Lee for most of them.
Yeah. No, yeah. So yeah. This is the most TV filler match you could possibly have. I mean, there's not even any point discussing it really, because it's just what it is. It's just one of them last minute matches that they throw together. Like I told you before, I hate it when they do it on a pay-per-view, because it's kind of like you've made this whole match card and you've decided to throw a random match in here for the sake of throwing a match in. I don't like it, but I'm going to give the guys 2-star. It got a start, it got a finish. You can't really ask more. Jack Swagger lost. I suppose that's the highest positive, the best positive thing I can take out of it. Because, the former world heavyweight champion, oh no, we the people. Now, jog on.
Not a fan.
I'm not. 2011 Jack Swagger could honestly jog on. Like, he's the worst.
Do you like Jake Hager's hat, though?
I do like his hat, yeah. I like Jake Hager. I think Jake Hager's thoroughly entertaining. I just hate Jack Swagger. I just don't like him as a wrestler. I just didn't like the character at any point. When he was world champion, I was completely checked out. I was like, man, either WWE have got a load of injury problems, or they've just got no superstars at the minute. Because if he's champion, it must be a painful time.
I'll just we'll get a little bit off topic, but let's give it a bit of substance. Yeah, Jack Swagger for me, I was kind of the same. I liked him in ECW, and he was like ECW champion. I was like, yeah, I was really excited when he was drafted to Raw. I thought there was a bright future for him, and then nothing really fully materialized. Then he won Money in the Bank, which felt out of nowhere. And like you said, the World Heavyweight title run came far too early, and like you said, from there onwards, that I mean, boring promos and stuff like that. It just didn't work out, and he didn't really ever recover from that. And it's a shame, really, because it was what could have been with the guy when he first come in.
And then they always put him with a mouthpiece, the wrong mouthpiece. Like they put him with Vicky Guerrero, didn't work. They put him with Zeb Coulter, didn't really work. It was kind of like he doesn't capture the audience on himself with a microphone. So they've put him with people that people really don't like listening to on a microphone, like Vicky Guerrero or Zeb Coulter, who has probably a bigger respectful audience outside of WWE.
Very true. Very true. I'll give a star rating for this. I've realized I've not done that yet. I'm going to give it 1.75, maybe 2. 2, I guess. Like you say, nothing wrong with it. Nothing right with it either. It didn't need to be here. That's what it is. But we'll move on in the meantime. And Josh Matthews is backstage interviewing the Big Show. And Big Show says that since he's come back, Mark Henry can't beat him. He says that he can use chairs. The reign of terror is over. And his 9-year wait for a world title is also over. So you know what that leads to.
Yeah, exactly.
Mark Henry versus The Big Show for the World Heavyweight Championship in a chairs match. That's right. A unique stipulation as well. And of course, a bit of detail for those coming in here that are unaware as well. Big Show was the first victim of the Hall of Pain. Funnily enough, Money in the Bank 2011 that happened. You must have seen that as well earlier today. But the superplex took place as well, which broke the ring at Vengeance between these two. And it was a DQ finish at their match at Survivor Series the month early. Poor Madison Square Garden. But we saw on the road to the ring, Mark Henry had tape around his left ankle. Show immediately left the ring, throwing multiple chairs into the ring. Must have been about 12 of them thrown in there. Show then eventually enters the ring with a chair. Mark Henry says, "You crazy," and looks to leave.
You your damn mind.
Exactly. He tries to leave with the title until Show chases him down. Mark Henry attempts to hit him with the championship. Of course, it's missed, and then Show hits Mark with some multiple chair shots. Mark gets back, though, with a chair shot as well, and then hits Show's injured hand onto the steel steps. Both men as well attempt to hit each other with chairs in the ring, and of course, they just hit the chairs there. It was almost like like a duel, a gladiator's duel, if you will. But Henry swings another chair at Show, and Show actually manages to land one knockout punch and actually picks up the victory. Very short and sweet. This match was just over 5 minutes long. Thoughts of Mark Henry and the Big Show, which for me spent more time getting chairs in the ring than actually attacking one another.
You say chased. These guys were slower than Kevin Nash. Like a brisk walk, maybe, but yeah. This is very underwhelming for Mark Henry, in my opinion, because his whole Hall of Pain thing was amazing. I thoroughly loved seeing Mark Henry do the Hall of Pain. I thought it was a great character dynamic. They made him out to be an absolute monster. and then they have him lose by one punch to the Big Show, and it's and he's at this point, but like after the course of what's just happened in the match, Big Show's punched a chair twice, and it's kind of like he's supposed to have done the same amount of damage to knock out someone of big Mark Henry size. It was okay. I imagine that obviously whatever the injury Mark Henry had was the reason why we probably didn't get anything longer. If I'm right as well, this is the only ever chair match to ever be in WWE as well.
I'm not sure of that reference. That's definitely worth a Google.
Because let's be honest, it's just a no holds barred match, the same as every other match on the card, really. But yeah, it's I give them props. The chair shots look painful. I think that's probably the one decent thing I can say about it. Really, it's too short. It's underwhelming, and I think it was probably, for what obviously comes next, it's probably the safest way to book what happens next.
It is it's not the real story. It's the build up to what becomes the real story. That's what this match is. It's about 3 months of a rivalry that pays off with neither man really walking away with a satisfying conclusion, really. Obviously, the Big Show does get his World Heavyweight Championship for the first time in 9 years. Doesn't hold it for very long. He is attacked after the match by Mark Henry, of course, hit with a chair, followed by a DDT on that chair, knocking him out conscious. Fans do seem, though, to get a bit of a hint of what is going to be happening. They're chanting for the name of Daniel Bryan, and before you know it, the music hits, and Daniel Bryan comes down and cashes in Money in the Bank, and just immediately pins the Big Show and gets the 3 count and celebrates. Of course, he's celebrating with the fans, of course, saying that in front of Michael Cole, he says, like, you did, all these times, all these things you said about me. Now I'm the World Heavyweight Champion. I'm the World Heavyweight Champion. Says into the camera to those who supported him over the last 12 years, this was for you. Big Show watches on. Michael Cole says you can't help but feel sorry for Show, who has waited 9 long years to win a world title. Also called Daniel Bryan a hypocrite, who had said he was going to cash in at WrestleMania, yet he cashed in on a vulnerable, knocked out Big Show, which of course, technically, we learn in a few weeks after this, technically was right, because Daniel Bryan turns heel and becomes annoying and hypocritical. However, what were your thoughts on this? Because this, when you look at it, it's really a monumental moment in wrestling history, because this was the turn of like indie wrestlers really getting their time in WWE, because you already had one ROH guy as your world champion. CM Punk had broke the mold, but at the time we had 2 world heavyweight champions, you always were guaranteed that the other one would be WWE style superstar. Now we had 2 ROH guys as your world heavyweight champions, indie darlings, 2 guys that are below 6 foot tall, that are 100 and something, or 200 pounds, just about
200 pounds.
Yeah, your days of the 6'10" superstars as world champions were transitioning over, and obviously that's led us into what we have today, with the likes of Seth Rollins being a world heavyweight champion and other wrestlers like that we've seen over the last decade or so. This feels like this was the breaking ground and the mold for such a moment.
Yeah, and this was what was so good about Money in the Bank back then as well, because it made genuine stars out of people like CM Punk, out of people like Daniel Bryan, who like you just instantly push them straight to the spotlight and mold them for being your future stars for the next however many years. And like I said, my always biggest issue in the last 3-4 years is that Money in Bank's always been just a waste of a storyline in WWE. Like, they've never booked it properly. But yeah, it was, like you said, it's the turning point here, and the fact that Daniel Bryan is a world champion when you've got, like I said, you just had Mark Henry as your champion. Like this guy who's 6 foot, I don't know, 6'4", claims to be the world's strongest man, or self-proclaimed world's strongest man, and like you go to someone who is completely the opposite scale. He's about a foot shorter, or he's about 200 pounds lighter. Do you know what I mean? It's I suppose it's refreshing, because it's almost as if like WWE were prepared and willing to change with the times, which is always a good thing to see, because it's got so many times recently in the last couple of years where they just don't do it. And like, obviously what Daniel Bryan goes on to achieve, and the whole Miracle on Bourbon Street, and like how that story essentially it really does start from this point, because obviously he was in Tough Enough, and like everyone knows what Tough Enough was, or was it even called Tough Enough? Was it still NXT back then? Like everything he went through with that of hodgepodge of a competition instead of making it about actual wrestling. But yeah, it's like I said, it was just it was good to see how and what the future held for WWE, and especially like you said with the photo that pops up at the end, and you look at everyone in there, and there's no one that fits a stereotypical mold for a WWE superstar. You're 6'5", 280 pounds, built like a brick wall, jacked kind of guy. Like they're all apart from Beth, but I mean, Beth built like a brick wall, but like the rest of the guys, they're all like fairly small, and like even the tag team champions, when you got Evan Bourne, who's like a 5 foot, I don't know, 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", like aerial combatant, and it's like Cody Rhodes is not the biggest guy at this point either. So yeah, it's almost like this is the point where it all just turns around for WWE.
Yeah, it feels that way indeed. There, it's a special moment when you look back at it, obviously, and to think what you had, like we said there, 5 minutes earlier, you had like two colossal guys in Mark Henry and the Big Show, going for the World Heavyweight title. And let's be fair, obviously, like you said, injury probably plays its part into why that match is a bit of a dud. To give a star rating quickly for Mark Henry and the Big Show, what would you give?
1.5, 1.75. I think like it was okay. It's just like it was, well, you said it was the build up to the next thing.
It's the build up to the next thing. For me, it's a bit of a letdown. I don't see anything really. The fact that there's hardly any altercation between these two, it's over so quickly. I can't go higher than a 1. I think I'm going to go for a 1 for this one.
I was generous because Mark Henry made me laugh when he went, "You out your damn mind." I think that's the reason why I've rated it a little bit higher.
It's the best part of the match, let's be fair. Meltzer gives it a quarter-star rating, by the way, for those that are just wondering also. But obviously, Daniel Bryan, like we said there, moving on then to the forward. And of course, he does actually face both Henry and Show at the Royal Rumble, if not mistaken, in a triple threat match. Gets through the Elimination Chamber, goes to WrestleMania, and like you say, loses the title to Sheamus in 18 seconds before the psychotic side of Daniel Bryan. We mentioned about the Indie Darlings, by the way. Into the summer of 2012, we see the rivalry of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship, and that's when you really know it's the top title, and you got those two ROH guys feuding over that title as well, not just holding titles and facing all the WWE guys, they're rivaling each other as well.
It's like for me, I wasn't too like 2011. It kind of WWE is my only platform for wrestling back then, so at the time I'm like, I don't know their whole ROH history, but like obviously going back 12 years later, I can sit there and go, do you know what, I can actually really appreciate it a lot more now for what it probably meant to people back then, and to guys like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk coming from the indies, from ROH, and still being able to reach the big stages and get the spotlight in a company like WWE.
I agree, and to be fair, it would be the same for me as well. Would have heard of Ring of Honor, would have known of their work, but hadn't seen what they brought to the table at that point. But obviously, it's seen two guys that were very good at what they did, and it didn't hold them back. That's which, it was looking through the new generation era. I mean, you saw the likes of like a Bret Hart, the workhorse kind of wrestler, getting to that position, getting to that next level. Shawn Michaels as well was a mid card who got himself to that top of the card, the smaller athletes, rather than we mentioned Diesel's, Kevin Nash's earlier on in this stream, being your world champion, of course, and perhaps maybe the Hogans and stuff before it. So it's an interesting time period to go through, and like you say, it changes a lot going forward. It's a fun time. They can't really rate, by the way, a star rating for Daniel Bryan cashing in Money in the Bank, but for moments, certainly it's a 5-star.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, obviously it's like the thing where that's the moment that makes Daniel Bryan a main event star.
Did you feel that Big Show didn't want to take that pinfall just before we move on? Because he really kicks it like bang on 3. It's like a second after 3.
Yeah, it's almost like he really wishes he could have like almost botched the finish to the match and actually accidentally retained it. So yeah, that would have been interesting. But yeah, I got that impression too.
Another heel turn from the Big Show. But we'll move on.
He wasn't already the heel?
It's how it is. Josh Matthews is with Booker T. They're backstage, and he tells Booker he's got nothing to prove. Booker said he may be in pain, but Cody will be in more. He didn't ask for this fight, but he will finish it. Leads to the Intercontinental Championship match, Cody Rhodes versus Booker T. Just to go through those details very, very quickly. Booker T does start strong with a strong kick to the jaw for a near fall. He's looking to get respect. Cody, though, gets on top and tries to get in Booker's head by saying that this is a young man's game, and he's the younger man, which is why he will win. Booker T gets back into the match, but slowly in a glaze after attempting a spinner-rooney. Yes, that's right, it's his pose, which means Cody then can take advantage. Hits a beautiful disaster kick for a 2 count, gets kicked out, and then hits another one and gets the victory. More story for me, this one.
This was the other one that had a. This was the other one for me that had the weird finish with the disaster kick, because I was like, I'm not privy to what Cody Rhodes' finisher was in 2011, but a disaster kick doesn't exactly seem to be the most impactful move that you could use. But I suppose that, like you said, the storyline is the beat where they play on the trauma, and it's the reason why he manages to secure the win over Booker T. But yeah, it was again more story driven than anything else with this one.
Yeah, and it's a short match again, so I mean, it's not got enough time really to tell more of a story in ring than that. But obviously, the story's been told throughout the night. Booker T is obviously a legend who can still hang, but has been outsmarted and taken out every advantage by Cody Rhodes, and that has led to the fact that he then couldn't win the IC title. But of course, that rivalry did continue after TLC. But this match went on for 7 minutes and 14 seconds. What would be a star rating for it?
2.5. I mean, like I said, I think the story adds more to it. Like, we got a match, we got a narrative, and it was a reason to carry on the feud. So I'm gonna say 2.5.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same. I think 2.5 as well. Like I said, I like a story, so it done its job for me. And Dave Mercer gives us a 2.25 star rating as well. And just to answer your question, I do believe the Crossroads is Cody Rhodes' finisher at this
there
point.
You go, yeah.
And for those that are wondering as well, he's not dashing, he's not wearing a mask, he is simply Cody Rhodes.
He's all smoke and mirrors.
He is smoke and mirrors, not an American Nightmare just yet. But then that puts us off nicely to not waste any time and go straight towards the main event of the show. A triple threat match, a tables, ladders, and chairs match for the WWE Championship. CM Punk defending against Alberto Del Rio and The Miz. So yeah, I mean, obviously we'll go into a bit of detail on this match here. Obviously, as we said, we knew that there was an alliance between Alberto Del Rio and The Miz, and of course that started in this match early doors, and of course it happened until both of them went to get a ladder, because that's when they kind of both looked at each other, and then that's when Ricardo made the distraction for The Miz, where then Del Rio could then put the beating in on The Miz on the floor.
Sorry, I've got to mention it because it just made me die every time I watched it. I really did like The Miz back in 2011, and I've clocked what it was. It's his facial expressions, and his mannerisms. Like, every time he thought Del Rio was going to turn on him, he'd go. I was like, "What are you doing?" Like, every time they stepped away, went. What are you doing, man? No one in their right mind does that. Just act like a normal person. Oh god, I hated The Miz in 2011. That is wearing brown ring gear. Like, who wears brown ring gear? Jesus.
And for the main event as well. I've got to say, I was a Miz fan back then, but you can see he has come a long way from where he was back then. He really, really has. But obviously, we mentioned the fact that they're no longer on the same page. That's led to CM Punk being able to get back into the match. Obviously, first off, doing a dive to the floor, of course, into Del Rio, which hit him with the ladder at the same time. He did a running knee with assistance of a steel chair to go into The Miz, who was sitting on the barricade outside. That sent him into the crowd. CM Punk then used uses, like I said, use that chair to elevate himself to do so. Punk attempts to climb the ladder then in the ring. It's a big ladder in the ring to do so. And Ricardo Rodriguez stops him, and he stops him by handcuffing CM Punk to the arm, if you want, of the ladder. So CM Punk was kind of cool. He had to come off of the ladder. This is where Del Rio was to come into the match and start beating down CM Punk. As Del Rio climbs the ladder, Punk breaks the arms on both sides of the ladder, to free himself, also to break the ladder. I thought that was a really creative spot because you got drama nice and early into this. Obviously, a bit weird. Ricardo Rodriguez is the reason CM Punk doesn't get to the championship there with the handcuff. But again, I like the storyline narrative they're playing with this match early doors.
Yeah, it probably is the smallest nitpick is that the fact that it's Rodriguez that pulls Punk off of the ladder and Punk can't beat off essentially a commentator for trying to handcuff him. But hey, like I said, this match is really good for the smallest details, like even little things. Like there's another point later on that I'm sure you'll bring up, which is the Punk lays a ladder against. It's actually just after this. I'm pretty sure he breaks the rung on the ladder, and he realizes the ladder's knackered, and he lays it against the rope, and Del Rio gets up and just bounces off the ropes and just jumps. Like Punk just turns and Del Rio's there, and he just obviously springboards him into the ladder. And it's just like it was all key, small little details like this. And then you had the intricate bits of the story of like Rodriguez handcuffing him, and that the handcuffs actually being a consistent story thread throughout this match as well. Unreal match, man. Like I appreciated this a hell of a lot more 10 years later, and like what we do now, like we sit and analyze it a lot more in depth. Like whereas 10 years ago, I was just like, yeah, CM Punk wins. Whereas now, I'm like, I can respect and appreciate all the small, subtle details that go into putting a wrestling match on.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, obviously, like you said there, like those details of what followed, and the fact that as well that CM Punk, like I say, he's broke free, but he still has the handcuffs on. So, like, it just breaks off the other ones. So, at this point, CM Punk now he's going to have to wrestle with those handcuffs around his left arm. But you mentioned the spot after that, so I'll move further on, but Punk actually goes to suplex The Miz off of the top rope to the floor, which would be in through a table. Del Rio kicks Punk in the head, though, which sends him off the buckle and through the table, which was a cool-looking spot. Del Rio actually applies this cross arm breaker to The Miz on the floor with the assist of the ladder, and then Del Rio does the same to CM Punk with the assist of a steel chair. A good use of the cross arm breaker.
Del Rio, I imagine, has got to be the suckiest guy to wrestle because I was sitting there watching everything he was doing, and he almost gives me shoot style vibes. Like every time he threw a punch, every time he wailed on him, every time he done like the arm bar, he honestly looks like he locks in for real. And it was like I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm like, if I was a professional wrestler, I guarantee you now, I would hate wrestling Alberto Del Rio because his shoot style is impressive. Because honestly, he looks like he's just angry constantly and he wants to hurt you. And that's probably the only thing I'm ever going to like about Del Rio is his in-ring capability. But I just respected it a lot more because he honestly, even little things like booting people in the back, and he just proper lays into him, man. It adds more to this match for me. But yeah, I imagine he'd be the suckiest person to wrestle.
Yeah, he does land a blow, doesn't it? It feels like a legit thing. Like you say, in-ring work, obviously good, but I think that's where the fandom will end for me with Alberto Del Rio. Not the biggest fan, if honest, but obviously Del Rio, he's done those bits on the floor to those guys. Rodrigo actually tries to climb the ladder. Actually, Del Rio tries to climb the ladder first. Apologies, but he's nowhere near the center of the ring. Did you find that a bit weird?
Yeah, like. Almost like I don't know if there was meant to be some sort of interaction with someone else there, and they got the timing wrong. I don't know, so I'll give it for what it was.
I just felt like it was obvious that a spot was coming. Obviously, Punk and Miz get into the ring, and then we see them sort of move the ladder, which then sends Del Rio, where, let's be fair, his gentleman area lands on the top rope to go to the floor. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. But that leads to Ricardo Rodriguez trying to climb the ladder, which then again, Miz and Punk try to, don't try, they get involved. They tip the ladder. Poor Rodrigo goes backwards through a table on the floor.
Dude, I beg you go back and watch this again, right? This is the funniest point of this match. Rodrigo takes that bump, yeah? The referees walk up to Rodrigo, they kneel down, they just turn and walk away and leave him. And it's the funniest thing because they're like, he's dead, and just walk off. I swear to God, I've never laughed harder. Like, because that looks, Rodrigo obviously doesn't take bumps normally. He goes through that table like anything. And you just watch the refs go down. They both kneel down. And then, but not even one stays there. They both just get up and walk away. No, he's dead, and just leave. And it's so funny.
Because it's a dangerous looking spot. It's a dangerous.
But it's like the ref's already made the assumption he's dead before even like checking for a pulse or something. It's unreal, man. It's so funny.
I see the humour side in it because there's two tables on the outside. He misses the first one, goes through the second. It's like, well, he's not coming back in this one. We might as well move on, everyone. You know.
But then they walk around the sides, and then he's just left there the rest of the match. No one else goes to check on him at any point. I was like, wow, man, poor Rodrigo, he can't cut a break.
Poor guy. It does make it back for the Rumble, though, so we'll give him that. But Punk, at this point, then, goes into the turnbuckle, missing The Miz, and The Miz actually managed to get hold of those handcuffs we mentioned before and actually attach him to the ring post. Well, not the ring post, but the in-between post bit between the post and the ropes in the corner area. Miz gloating, as Miz will do, gets a kick in the head for his trouble because, well, CM Punk could still reach him with his foot. Comedy.
Loved it though. That was the whole point that he turned his head away, looked, and Punk just wipes him around the head. I think it's a great spot. I loved it.
It is a fun spot, and to be fair as well, it gives you a good chance to see Miz's mannerisms again.
He wasn't ready for that one.
He was not ready for that one at all. Absolutely not. But obviously, Punk actually then tries to get himself free. Obviously, we mentioned it's between the post and the ropes. So obviously, the ring crew put the ring together. And the way they do that to separate the ring ropes is to take that middle part away. So that's what Punk had to do to get himself free. A very creative spot once again, mid-match.
That's his ROH experience there, because they used to put the ring up and put the ring down every night. So he knew how it come apart. See? Genius, Punk.
Exactly. See, it's a modern wrestling world. That's what it is there. Working away, our indie darlings there, knowing how to get out of it. But The Miz and Del Rio trying to climb up the ladder. This leads to Punk then obviously joining them. Obviously, The Miz is first off of the ladder. Punk then does the kick to Del Rio to kick him off the top of the ladder. Miz pulls Punk down off the ladder, though Punk then quickly puts a GTS go to sleep on The Miz. CM Punk then climbs to the top of the ladder and retrieves the WWE Championship to win. Retain the championship, his first pay-per-view win since winning it the month before at Survivor Series, which will continue on then to the Royal Rumble in 2013, his 434-day reign as champion. And this is what closes the show as well. Another happy ending once again.
Yeah, fantastic match to close the pay-per-view off. I mean, for me, match of the night, it had everything in it. It had story narrative with The Miz and Alberto Del Rio. It had really good high spots. It had a consistent story with the handcuffs being a part of it all the way through. We had comedy moments. We had The Miz pulling great poses. We had Rodrigo essentially dying on the outside of the ring and then everyone just leaving him to it. I thoroughly enjoyed this, man. This was a really, really good wrestling match.
It was an awesome way to finish the show. My memory was like, I remember watching this match and thinking, I know this is a really good main event, but you forget all the details and the ins and outs, and just seeing the creative spots there of how, like, CM Punk, it feels like there's no way this guy's gonna win this match because he's handcuffed twice in two different scenarios and cleverly gets his way out of it. It really adds an extra layer to this match. It reminds me of a match that actually happened in the pandemic, which is Sami Zayn, AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy in the ladder match at Clash of the Champions. That was a fantastic match as well. That included handcuffs to get, I believe, Sami Zayn the win in that match. And this again, it had that sort of feeling of it once again. And for me, it was a really, really all killer, should I say, no filler end to this show. Longest match on the show, which I believe is 18 minutes and 25 seconds. What would be your star rating for this final match?
I mean, it's a really good match. I wouldn't say it's like the greatest match of all time, but for me, I'm going to say 4.5 star. I think it had everything it had everything it needed. I can really appreciate it for it. Like, it's like, yeah, there's not really a lot to say bad about it. I personally can think of other matches I could probably rate higher than it. So I'm going to say a 4.5 star. I think it was really good.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I'm going to go for a 4 star. Like you said, the story involved in this is great. The execution is great in this match as well. It didn't overstay its time. I think it was a perfectly timed match. But like you say, you just have matches that I think I favour more. So that way, I think a 4 star for me, I think is a fair rating. But certainly, as you said, there match of the night on this show as well. Big Dave,
What
give
did
this
Dave give for it?
a 4.25, just looking up just now.
Oh.
So smack bang in the middle of us. But yeah, all in all, good stuff all around. So all in all, that is TLC 2011. So my question to you is, what would be your score rating out of 10?
Great start, great end. Iffy all in between. I'm gonna say 6.5. I think like if I was to go back and watch it again, I'd watch the first match and I'd watch the last match and I'd skip all the middle of that. So I'll say 6.5.
I feel you could be on the money with that 6.5. I think that's a good rating. Like you say, it's almost like a perfect GM mode, isn't it? Like you say, the opener's good, the close of the show's good. There is some okay stuff. Obviously, Daniel Bryan's cashing is very memorable on this show as well. And
Moments, yeah.
I enjoyed the tables match as well. I won't lie with that. And I do feel the storyline narrative of Triple H and Nash, I think actually we've had a bit of fun with it on the stream, but I do think it gets more hate than perhaps maybe what it deserves. But
Yeah.
maybe a slightly controversial take, but all in all, I think 6.5 is a fair rating. Is there any final thoughts you'd like to give about TLC 2011 before we wrap up the stream here today?
Go back and watch Rodrigo die, and then no one absolutely cares about him. They check it, they see, they go, no, he's dead, and just leave him. Check it out. It's the funniest moment of the show. It's hilarious.
I'm going to just go back and just see that moment now as we go off the stream. But yeah, everyone, I recommend you go and do the same. And if you are watching this on delay, let us know what you think in the comments below of TLC 2011. And of course, we will be doing the Royal Rumble in January. So keep an eye out on the channel. We will give you details close to the time, but we will let you enjoy Christmas first. But do keep an eye on the channel because more videos will be coming in that point. And we may even have a special rewinder for you over the Christmas period that will be pre-recorded, so keep an eye out for that. But take care, thanks all for watching, look after yourselves and each other, and this has been the Retro Review for TLC 2011. See you next time.